طيب, so inshallah we will continue our class. So in the last class we did what? At the end what we did, we split the components into multiple components. So we had one component here, so we had all the logic here, right? So what we did was we took some logic and put some of it here, and also we created a new component for rendering the to-do list itself. So this is a component which will just take care of rendering the list on the screen here. Okay, so we split the components, we split one component into multiple. Now we just have to make the circle full. Right now if you see, we have 3 to-dos, and that is coming from this root component, right? We have the root component. There if you see, that's a state variable to-dos, which is an array which will store all of our to-dos. Okay, so initially we have 3 to-dos, and those 3 to-dos are displayed here. Okay, so those 3 to-dos are rendered by which component? By the to-dos list component. So we are passing that array as a prop to this component, and that component will do the list rendering for us. Okay, and there is another component which is the input component. So here we have this input box, and also we have this button, right? So this component will taking care of getting new inputs, okay, or creating new to-dos. So currently if you see, there is something here. I can type whatever I want. Okay, so redex or whatever it may be, I can type something, I can click on add as well, but nothing happens, right? Learn git. So if I click on that, it's disappearing, but I'm not seeing anything on the screen here, right? It should be added here, and the reason for that is the logic is not completed. So if you look at this component, a new to-do component, what we are doing currently is, so we are having that input box, input component, and whenever that changes, we are updating the variable here. Okay, but the moment I click on this button, right, add to do, this function gets called, handle click, and if you look into that function, it's not doing anything here. It's just going to set this value to empty, and if it's empty string, then it's going to return. Okay, so what we should do here is, like we told before, we have to add this. We have to add that new to-do to the existing array of to-dos, right? So I can do it in 2 ways. Let me just take this out. So the moment I click on that, I want to add that new to-do inside this array. So there are 2 ways of doing it. Either I can do that addition inside this component itself, or I can do something which is just notify the parent about that new to-do, and the parent will take care of adding it inside the array. Okay, so there are 2 approaches. Let's look at both approaches, and finally you will clearly see which is the better one. Okay, so let's now say we are going to do the addition from within the component itself. Okay, so for that what I can do, so if I want to add, right, that means we are going to modify that to-dos array, right? If I'm going to add a new to-do, it means that we are going to modify this array. So for modifying this array, can I do it straight away, or should I do some special approach? Yes. So this is a state variable, so you can't change it directly. Rather, you have to use this special function for modifying this array type. So is this special function available inside this component? Because we want to do it inside this component, right? We want to add it from here, but that function is not available, right? I can only use this function, set to do's, but that function currently is not available inside this component, right? Is it available or not? It's not available. So how can I make it available? Yes, you can pass it as a prop, because we discussed before, right? Using props, you can pass anything. You can pass normal numbers, you can pass arrays, you can pass objects, you can pass classes, you can even pass functions. Okay, you can pass pretty much anything by way of props. So what I can do is, I can take this function and pass that as a prop for this new to-do input, so that I'll be able to use it inside there. Okay, so I can come here, I can say set to-dos is equal to set to-dos. So this and this should be the same name, right? Because we are referring to this function, but as for this name, it can be anything. Okay, it can be anything. So let me just keep it the same for the time being. So let me save this. Now this function will be available inside this new to-do component, right? So right now if you see that we are having this props. So what I can do is I can access that function, okay, like this, because this props will be an object, right? That props will be an object which will contain all the props that I passed to this component, right, as keys. Right now if you see there's only one prop I am passing, so this props would be an object like this. That would be an object that has one property which is set to do's. Okay, this name, where it is coming from, it is this. Whatever I give here will be appearing here. What about the value? The value is a function. Okay, it's a function. Okay, so we can't write function, like we can't describe it, but it will be a function. Okay, that will be the value. So this is my props. My props object looks like this right now. Okay, right? So I can use array object destructuring to just unpack it, right? Because destructuring is like a way to unpack, right? So I can do like this, set to do's. So I can straight away use this name instead of saying props.set to do's. Okay. Line number 6. This is destructuring, akhi. We learned before, right? If you have an object like this, A1, B2, C, okay, 5. If you have an object like this, then how will you access? Let's say this object is called alphabets, okay, alphas. So how will you how will you access the property A? Alphas.a, right? Likewise alphas.b. So wherever you want to access or use that variable or use that property, then you have to use this syntax, right? Alphas.alphas. So instead of repeating that again and again at multiple places, we can do the destructuring, okay? Like we can unpack it and we can use it easily. So if I'm going to destructure that, what I will do like this: const is equal to alphas A, B, C. So right now what we have done is we have destructured that, okay, or we have unpacked it. So right now if I want to use that field, I can just say A, I can just see B, I can just say C. I don't have to say alphas.a. For example, if I want to print that in the console, I can say console.log A. This is enough for me. I don't have to say alphas.a because I have already destructured that, right? So this is the convenience that destructuring offers you, okay? So this is something which we discussed during our ES6 classes, right? Destructuring, array destructuring. This is also destructuring, right? Because this use state, this is a function, what that will return? It will return you an array. That array has two fields of two elements. We are going to say the first element should be called as new to do and the second element should be called as set new to do. Okay, so that you can use it right away. Otherwise what you should do, you should use that array notation, right? Of 0, of 1, right? So this is array destructuring. Likewise this is object destructuring. Okay, so what I am doing is I am destructuring my props so that I can just use this name directly, okay, right? Where 3 name, okay? No, this is here there is no conflict because this is not a variable. I am not defining any variable here. I am just defining a prop actually. So even though these two names are same, it's not a problem, okay? It's not going to throw any error. But here, where is this? Where there's no similarity, right? Where this is set to do, this is set new to do. These two are different, two different names. So no problem. So I'm destructuring my prop here, props object. So I can use this directly. Okay, set to do's. So even doing it at line number 5, I can even do it right away here itself, like this. Okay, you see the syntax here. This is how you do destructuring, right? See, previously we had like this, we write like this. You do the same thing here, write the same thing here, so that will be automatically destructured for you. Okay, so you can take this out. Namaste. So here what we are doing, we are destructuring, right? You understand line number 4, right? Sorry, line number 5 you understand, right? Because props is going to be an object that has all the keys that we define here. So right now if you see there's only one prop, so that's going to be one key called set to do's, and what is the value of that key? That is going to be a function, this function. Okay, so this props object, this props is an object which has one key, okay, which is going to be set to do's, and that's going to be a function. So I am destructuring that here. Okay, I am using it here directly, so I can use it directly. Okay, so instead of doing the destructuring at line number 5 separately, I can do it here directly. I know that this is going to be this is an argument, right? I know that this is going to be an object. Okay, so I can do the destructuring directly here itself. So these two are the same. Previously I am doing it inside separately, now I am doing it here itself. Okay, so both are same. So I can do the destructuring in this line itself. So right now if you see, I can save it, and you won't see any error right now. Okay, because this set to do's is now available. Okay, so we have made this function available inside our component here. So what I should do if I want to no, it's not like that. If you have multiple keys, you can do it here. Okay, whatever keys that you give here. Okay, let's say for example we are also going to pass this to do's. Okay, inside that. So if I'm doing like this, to do's is equal to do's. So right now if you say I'm passing two props for this input. Okay, so I know that the props object is going to have two keys like this. So I'm destructuring them here itself, in this level here itself. It's like this. So I can use these two things, two props directly. Okay, it doesn't matter. See, even if you have given two keys here, okay, I can just make use of only one key here. I can completely disregard that to do's key, even though that's going to be available. I'm not going to use it here. Okay, so I just need one of this here. This is also possible. Okay, that's also possible. Yeah, you can see you can use that object notation props dot, but this is more convenient, right? Instead of writing props dot everywhere. So if you destructure like that, you can just directly use that name. Okay, so now I have destructured that. So what is happening? This function is available, right? So this is a special function using which you can we can modify this array, and now that is available inside my component. Okay, so what happens? What we should do when we click on that add to do button, I want to take the new to do and I want to add it inside that array, right? So we have to do it here. So if that new to do is empty, like if the user didn't enter anything, right? If it's an empty string, just return and don't do anything, because we don't have to add empty to do's into the array. But if it's not empty, then we have to come here and we have to add the new to do inside the to do's array. So we know that we can use this function for that. Okay, so but what I should pass to that function? So right now set to do's, I'm calling that function, I'm calling this function here, but I should pass an input, right, for that. What should be that input? So it should be the new array. It should be the old array plus the new to do, new value added. But where is that old array? Yes, the old array is also defined in the upper level only. It's here, right? So you also have to pass it there as well. So if you want to access old array, you also have to pass it as a prop. So like we are already doing it here actually. So we know that this is available there, right? So I can now destructure that as well. So to-dos. So I know that this is going to have the existing to-dos. So I can avail it here, okay? So set to-dos. How can I do it? We discussed this in the last class. So we have to do destructuring, to-dos, comma, new to-do. Okay? So this will make sure that our new to-do gets added in that existing array, okay? So if I save this, learn git. See, it's get added here. Learn GitHub. So it's working the way that we expect, okay? So it's the same, just like we had in the beginning. It's the same functionality, same feature, except that there are some slight changes in which we have separate component dedicated for rendering that list, and we have separate component for taking care of adding the new input, and we have an upper component or the root component which is going to assemble all of them together and give the app for us, okay? So you understand to this point? Huh? Yes, it's not we can split it, we have to split. Because see, this is a very simple app, but if you take any real world application, it's going to be very complex. It's going to have huge amount of components. It's going to have thousands of components, and it's going to have tens or 20s of pages. So you have to split like this. Yes, you have to split. Of course, if you don't split it, everything is going to live in the same file, and it's going to be difficult for you to maintain. It's going to be very difficult for you to develop. No. There's no disadvantage. No. There's no disadvantage in using props. That is the general approach. It is a disadvantage. It's a very bad thing if you put everything in the same file. That is because if you put everything in the same file, then it will be very difficult for you to maintain. It will be very difficult for you to read the code. You know, if you look at the code that you yourself wrote, after 1 week or 1 month, you'll become disappointed, or you'll become frustrated because it's so poor, you can't understand anything. But when you split things into their own components, their own functions, and keep things simple, then it's going to be good for everyone, for you and also your other team members who will be working with you. Okay. Yes. But this is the general approach. Okay, this is the normal thing. So right now what we have done is we have split this into multiple things. Okay, and the app is exactly working the way that we had it before. But right now I want to point you to one thing, which is if you look at the logic, right? The logic of adding new to do, we are doing it inside this component, right? New to do input, right? Here I'm adding this, okay? But this is not a right approach. This is fine, this works, but this is not the best thing, because this component, new to do input, it is not supposed to do this task, okay? It's kind of irrelevant for it. Like we have this thing, right? So everything should do only that which concerns it. My component, this component here, if you see, its task is just to what? Its task is to get the new to do, right? And if I click on add to do button, it doesn't have to take care of pushing it inside this array. This can be done by the parent. Okay. So I don't have to write this logic. It's only one line actually. You can say, okay, it's only one line, so why does it matter a lot? But let's say that this is 5 lines or 6 lines of logic, okay? And if you put that here, that's really bad actually, because this component doesn't have to do that. The job of this component is to handle this new to do variable. It's to modify that. And when I click on the handle click button, okay, it has to do the verification job obviously, because if it's empty, then it should not do anything. But if it's not empty, I'm just going to handle the job to something else, some other function or some other component, okay? I don't have to do the rest of the job, okay? So clearly line number 11 should not be here, it should be somewhere else. So what I can do instead is I can remove this. I'm also going to remove these two, okay? Line number 12, no, this is needed. because see, if the to-do is not empty, then we are going to handle the task to something else, and this has to be cleared right. This has to be reset to an empty string right, because we know that that new to-do will be added, okay, it will be added in the array, and we have to clear this on the screen right. For that we have to keep the line number 12, so this is necessary. So in line number 11, what I would say is just handle over the task to some other function or component. Okay. So when you know that the new to-do is something defined and we have to add this to the existing list of to-dos, you just handle over the task to some other function or component. So what I can do now is, I'm going to handle this task to my parent, okay, and the parent will take care of adding that, okay. So right now if you see, we are passing this to-dos array here, okay. Let's take this. Should I pass the same function to this to-dos? Should I pass the same function to this to-do input component? No, because this function will directly modify this array, right? But we already decided that should not happen. I am not going to do it directly, okay. Rather, what I can do is I can write a new function like this. So I'm going to write a new function, okay, const add to do. This is a new function. So what this function does, it takes one argument, okay. It takes one argument, and that's going to be a string, okay. That's going to be the new to do, whatever to do that we want to add, and it will add it here. So that same logic, set to do's comma new to do. So you see what this function does. When you call this function with some to do, right, it is going to add this to the, it is going to add this inside that array, okay. So I can pass this function as a prop for my input component. Add to do is equal to add to do, okay. So I am passing this function here, and I will access this function in my props. So I know there's going to be one prop called add to do, and I will call that function here, okay. Add to do, and that function, right, the add to do function, it takes one argument, that's going to be a string. So this new to do, right, which is here, should be passed as the input for that. Now if you see, in line number 11, what we have done is we have handed over the tasks to some other to our parent, okay, and that logic, right, it is here, it is inside this function. So now even if the logic is complex, right now if you see it's only one line, but let's say that it's going to have 15 lines or 20 lines, some complex logic, right, that won't be residing inside this component, rather it's residing in some other place which is relevant. So this is a better approach, right? So if you see now our component here, new to do input, right, this is very simple actually. This just do one thing, okay, and that's the principle or the sort of notion or best practice that a function should do only one thing. So if you have a function, then that should do only one task, okay, one meaningful task. You should not do complex things, you should do only one thing. So right now if you see, this is the component, it's a functional component, and if you see, it's doing only one thing actually, okay, which is taking care of the new to do, okay. So now if I save this and if I check the app, learn github, okay, learn CI/CD, if I add it, you can see it's working the same way as before, but the structure, if you see, the way that we have put the pieces together is very good actually compared to the previous situation, okay. Project is not complete, okay. So what is left? This is adding to do, but what about deleting to do? Yeah, so let's say that you have learned the front and back end DevOps, alhamdulillah, so we have to delete it right from the to-dos. So I have to add that feature, right? So to get started, right, what I will do is, let me have a small X mark at the end of every to-do, okay, and if I click on that X mark, that thing should be removed, okay. So right now if you see, the requirement is there should be an X mark after every to do. Okay, so how can I do that? Where should I edit? I should edit this file here, because this is a file which takes care of rendering that, right? Yeah, and if you look at this, this is this division, right? This is what will is appearing here. So if you see this piece of UI here, this is a division that is responsible for that, right? So if I want an X mark there, or some button or whatever maybe, then I should be editing this here. Yeah. So okay, instead of keeping an X mark, we'll keep a small button there. Okay, let's say remove button. Just like you have an add to do here, we have a button here at the end of every to do, and that says remove. Okay. So what I should do, I should come and edit this. Right now, if you see, it's very simple. It's just a very small division, which has the text here. Okay, to do. But I'm going to modify that. Okay. So what I can do is, that's not going to be simple anymore. So that's going to be a division that itself has two more divisions. Okay. Okay, let's say two more spans. So the span will contain the to do, the text that should be displayed, and secondly, that's going to be a button. Okay. That says remove. If I save this, you can see. So you understand what we have done here, right? We have just modify the transformation. Okay. Previously we were just transforming every to do into a small simple division, but right now if you see, that's not simple. Rather, it has two components. One is the text component, another is the button component. Okay, which is here. Okay. So now what happens if I click on this button? Nothing happens. Why? Because there is no event listener attached, right? So we want to do something when the button is clicked, right? Yes, so I can add some event listener for this. Okay, so I know that when I click on this button, I have to call a function, let's say handle remove. So that should be this handle remove is defined here. Handle remove. Okay. Okay. So now you see there's a function here. Okay, handle remove. That function will be called whenever I click on that. Okay, but what I'm doing inside the function, I don't know what to do. But I have to do something, right? But let's think about it. The same thought process which we had before. So we had this new to do input component, which just takes care of adding the new to do, right? Likewise, this component to do list component, right? I don't have to take care of the logic which will remove that element, because what I should do ultimately is that I have to remove that particular to do. Like if I'm clicking on learn GitHub, right? I want to remove that entry from that to do array, right? From this array, right? So that logic can reside in this component itself. Just like we have the logic for adding to do, we can write the logic that will take care of removing it. Okay, and we'll just pass the same function. Just like we are passing the function add to do, we'll pass the function remove to do as a prop. No. Why would you write a component? A component, React component, it is for displaying an UI, right? This is not a UI. This is just going to do some manipulation task, right? We have some data here, and we're going to manipulate the data, right? You're not going to display anything on the screen, right? Does this display anything on the screen? This one? No. So there is no need to go for a new component. But if you take these two things, they have some logic inside them as well, but they also display something on the screen, right? So that's why we have defined them as a separate component. Now, Mahi, that's what I'm saying. If it's going to display something, we have to define as a new component. Otherwise, there is no need to create a new separate React component. Okay. So just like we have a function called add to do, we can define a function called remove to do. Okay. And what that function do? For adding the new to do, we need what that to do is, right? What to do that I'm going to add. Likewise, for removing to do, I should know what I'm going to remove. I can use the index. Can I use that value? Let's say, can I use the value learn backend? Can I use the value to remove? Why? Yes. Yes. Because if you use the value, then there can be duplicate entries, right? So in that case, you'll be confused what to remove, right? You either end up removing both of that, which should not be right. So if I use the value, then I won't be able to uniquely remove anything. Okay. So using value is not the right approach. So we can use index actually, because every entry here has a unique index, right? Even though the value may be same, but the index will never be the same, right? So I can use an index here, okay? So what I can do is this remove to do function takes an index, okay? And using the index is going to do what? It's going to remove from here. So how can I do that? Okay, so now you have solved lead code problems, right? You tell me the logic for this. If you see, these are the requirements, okay? I have the index here, which should be removed, and I have the array here, which has the existing to-dos, and we know that the array can't be mutated. Okay? So what is the logic for that? Yeah, first we will copy the array and then we will, yeah. So there are multiple ways that you can do it, but I think a simpler approach would be like this. So what I can do is, I can say const filtered array, filter to-dos is equal to to-dos, the existing to-dos dot, I'm going to use a filter method, okay? Filter, and this filter method takes a function as an argument, right? So that takes, so the first argument for that function would be each to do, and the second argument would be the index, right? Index of that to do, right? So what I can do is, if this index is equal to that index, then I will remove it. So like we won't use this first thing here, first argument here, we'll just neglect that. We'll just use second argument, but the name can't be the same actually, because we already use the name index here. So I can't use the same name here, so let me just keep this as I, okay? So if index, it should be not equal to I. So you understand this line here? So I'm filtering that to-dos array, and this is my filtering function. What that will do, the condition is, if that index is not equal to this I, then that element would be a part of this array. Okay? If that index is equal to this index, then that element won't be a part of this array. Which means that whatever number I pass here, right, let's say this index is going to be 2, then the third element won't be a part of the final array here. Okay? No. Yeah, we also studied this before actually. These methods, right, filter, map, these don't mutate. Rather they return copies. We studied this, right? These are not, this doesn't mutate actually. Like we also spoke about doing things in place and copying, right? Like for example, sort we have. Sort, right, what does it do? Sort method, it will mutate actually, array.sort, that mutates. But as for this method here, filter, and also we have map, reduce, these things, they don't do any mutation, rather they return new copies. So we are not mutating that state variable, okay? Yes. It just goes through those values. So this filter to-dos now will only have the final elements, so it's going to remove the element that we want, okay? So I know that this filter to-dos is going to have the filtered elements. So what I will do next, I will use this function here, set to-dos function, and I will set the value. So set to-dos, filter to-dos, okay? So this will work, right? This logic is fine, right? So if you give the index, I will remove without any mutation, and I will update my my array here, okay, to-dos array. So what I can do now is I can just pass this function as a prop to this component here, okay? So remove to do is going to be equal to remove to do. So I can save that. So now I can access this function inside this component. So I have props here, right? So I'm going to destructure that, okay, here itself. So that's going to have one prop called remove todo, okay. So I can call this function here, okay. Now this function, when you call that, right, what I should do, I should pass an argument, right. I should pass the index, right, when I call that function, right. When I call this function, I should pass the index, right. So the index is available here, right. So what I can do, so it's slightly it's kind of tricky for the beginners, but it's very simple only. See, when I click on this handle remove function, right, when I click on this button, this function will be called, okay. But inside this function, let's say I'm going to in turn call this remove todo function. But when I'm calling that function, I am in need of that index, right, anyway, right. See, I have this button here. When I click that button, this function will be called, okay, hand remove function will be called, okay. What I will do inside that function, I have to call this function again, right, remove todo function with that index value, right. So this function is in need of that index value, right. Anyway, what I'm saying is, okay, that's one way. Okay, let's do one more thing, which is, instead of having this intermediate function unnecessarily, I can directly call this function here, like this. Okay, this is also fine, right. Instead of having that unnecessary intermediate function, I can directly call this. This is fine, right. But when I call this, I have to pass the index, right. So can I do like this, So when I'm calling the function and I'm also passing the index here, which is coming from here, is this fine? This is not fine actually, because I am calling the function here itself. No, I should call the function when I click on that. So it should be like this. Is this fine? Now if you see, this is a small function which I have defined inline, and that function will be called whenever I click on the remove button. And what that function do? That function calls the remove todo function with that index. So there's a slight difference between this and this. When you do like this, right, this will be called and executed even when you don't click, because when JavaScript, it comes here line number 11 and it will parse or execute this line, it is going to call this function, right, because this is a function called, right. So that function will be called even before you click on that. So let's try this actually, let's see this. Okay, props is not defined. Okay, where is the props coming from? Okay, here. So we are also using the to-dos, right, so I have to destructure that as well, to-dos. So I can get rid of this props dot. Okay. Now if you see, right, if I reload that, you can see everything is gone actually. You're not seeing anything here, okay. Even though we had an initial to-dos, here we have 3 to-dos, but if I come to the app for the first time, you're not seeing anything here, because the reason is, inshallah, we will explain this tomorrow as well, okay. This small detail we will explain tomorrow as well, but right now I'm just going to finish everything in a very hurried way. So this line is executed and that is being removed actually, and the reason is because you are writing like this. So this function will be called even if you are not clicking this. But what I want to do, I want to call it only when I click this. So in that case, I have to define this as a separate function here, okay. So in this case, here it's not a function call, rather it's only a function definition. So that will be called only when I click on that. In this case, if you see, you can see that it's appearing on the in the beginning, and if I click on that, it is getting removed, okay. So inshallah, we will explain this tomorrow, inshallah, in a very slow way, inshallah, okay. But now we will wrap up, okay. So any quick doubt or question? Yeah, inshallah, we'll repeat the last 5 minutes tomorrow, inshallah, okay. Thank you, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.